Today marks yet another day. Found my way into the deep crevice of Sugarloaf Keys on my way back from Key West. Rude awakening this morning. Lots of roosters just wouldn't shut the hell up. But hey, that's what Keys is all about, free roaming chickens and stuff. And even this far out, take a look at this guy. He's been camping out in my RV for the last couple of minutes. He has actually sprinted here like an ostrich. Look at him. I mean, clearly he knows what he is doing. Really quick. Not your typical, whatchamacallem. Not your typical chicken. This is a undomesticated creature that's free roaming the mangroves and everything. Right, that's such a weird concept. You would never think that chickens would be running about in the mangroves, but they do. So gonna take you on this little journey. This is a mangrove trail filled with, oh, look at this, filled with rather mature mangroves. We got red and black. The black ones are sticking out. The red ones have sort of roots that are like this. Unfortunately, on the way here, I found that a lot of it died. Quite unfortunate. And then another thing, you might be wondering, why is there asphalt here in the middle of all of this? It seems like Florida Keys has adopted a methodology. See, it's just a jungle over there. Seems like Keys have adopted a methodology where if the area gets devastated by the hurricane, they just pretty much abandon it. So a lot of so-called ecological preserves are just that, formerly abandoned urban communities out here in the Keys. And just notice how quickly nature takes over. I don't know when specifically this was abandoned, but this road which I'm on, 931 I believe, it went all the way to the end of the keychain. Not so much anymore. And another thing that I found just by being out here, well, in the Keys, there are defined people. Like there could be a road with absolutely nothing on it at all, other than just, you know, the mangroves taking over, and cool. And there will be like one person that lives there. It is such a bizarre thing. Island life here is, fairly interesting out here in the Keys. It seems like the locals, and I'm using that in loosest terms possible, they are very weathered people. There's parts like yesterday I was at the Boyd's campground in Key West, and that whole part of town is where, you know, the typical Key West crowd lives. You know, not the touristy spot that, you know, people are used to, like around Duval and all them touristy spots. This is actually, you know, actual Keys. And this is what this trip is about, just exploring the actual Keys rather than the touristy spot. And those people are very weathered. It just seems like they have seen better days. They all look very rough, very seasoned, and the tourists are absolutely oblivious. Had a interesting conversation with a couple of college girls yesterday. Ooh, right. So they were like drunk to the boot, and I kept telling them, I'm like, look, girls, you are not in the right state of mind right now. You're inebriated. You step one street away from the main stretch, who knows what might happen. Get home safe sort of deal. Naturally, the more sober one took particular notice to that than the spiderweb, than the other one. But the sunset in Key West was very much worth it, as always. Got to see a lot of cool things. Some of the locals, some of the musicians, even the resident catman still performing, marveling the crowds. Look at this. This is it would be amazing to take kids out here on a hike, through some sort of like a coastal educational program or something. Very cool trail. Unfortunately, after the hurricane, there's a lot of trash that's caught between all of this, but and I want you to listen to something. Hear that? There's absolutely nothing here. Nothing. There's no roar of the engines. There's no roar of jet planes. There's no sirens, no motorcycles zooming by, and unfortunately, keep turning the camera because the sun is right behind me. But yes, this area out here is really pretty. What a cool little hike. I'm pretty sure that whoa, that was probably, yep, that was a ibis. Clumsy ibis. Given enough time, I am pretty sure that this will absolutely 100% reclaim itself. And if I had to guess, that is exactly what Florida Keys government wants to do, to establish majority of the keys, if not all of the keys, as a ecological preserve. The rules out here in the Keys have been very strict. After, look at all this brown stuff. This stuff out here is called detritus. It's all the decomposing leaves and stuff, and then a whole bunch of these leaves lined up is the drift line, meaning that water actually comes here in the high tide. So yeah, after the hurricane, they have been very strict with respect to people rebuilding and everything like that. Obviously with the codes, naturally, but more importantly with prohibiting people from any shenanigans or anything like that. And they're just making those rules stricter and stricter, essentially almost forcing people to just abandon and then buying that property on the cheap. Look at this. The goal is not to get off the beaten path, because you don't want to be stuck out here lost. Oh, another thing about all of that, they are doing absolutely nothing to restore the land. No cleanup, nothing. They just let the land take over. And some could say that that's probably the right thing to do, but there's also the other component of it, which is environmental responsibility. If you're doing something like a conservation on a piece of land with intent to preserve it for ecological purposes, you might as well do your due diligence and clean it up. Alrighty folks, well to be honest with you, I wish I could keep walking down this trail. It's just a gift that keeps on giving. But the fact is, it is so long, and I totally wasn't prepared for this. I think this is a trail that I need to come back to in the future, that's for sure. Like a dedicated actual hiking trip thing. But nonetheless, I had a very tongue twister, very successful flight. I found myself an area from which I could launch, and the signal was pretty good. And now my goal is to go further down the island chain. Right now I'm actually walking on a very thick layer of naturally reclaimed land. As nature takes over and mangroves move in, they trap particles of soil and detritus and decompose in this and that, and eventually the asphalted road on which we were on, see, it's the same one. There's asphalt and no asphalt over there. And then this side over there, I can see water. My goal is to find myself a little connection, which I've seen on Google Maps. Ooh, I see water on this side too. Means I'm getting close. Hopefully, if luck would have it, I'll be able to see clearing. Well, I see clearing on this side over there. Okay, I gotta remember this spot. Maybe I'll have to come back to it. But there was a clearing. Maybe it got overgrown. And of course, as soon as I get here, the wind picks up. Let me check my maps.